All right, welcome to the show today. My guest today is Alex Ikonn. He's an entrepreneur and investor based in London, UK. And in 2008, Alex was on track to become an investment banker at one of Canada's big four banks. But a series of events changed his trajectory, and he ended up unemployed, broke, surviving on government benefits. So, inspired by the 4-hour work week and wanting to build a lifestyle business, Alex saw a gap in the hair extension market and founded Luxy Hair with his now wife Mimi and her sister Layla. What started as a $20,000 investment from a personal line of credit grew over the next 8 years to a premium beauty lifestyle company with over 250,000 customers in 165 plus countries. Luxy Hair grew largely from social media, including their YouTube channel, which has 3.2 plus million subscribers, 500 million views, and is the world's largest hair channel. Luxy Hair has also been ranked in the top 2% of best places to work in Canada. In late 2018, Alex successfully exited from this business when it was acquired by the beauty industry group. Alex is also the co-founder of Intelligent Change, which is the company behind the 5-Minute Journal and the Productivity Planner. And he's also an angel investor in many startups, including the meditation app Calm. So I wanted to bring Alex on the show today to find out how he started and grew Luxy Hair, what he's learned from starting and building numerous successful companies, and what's next for him now that he's exited from Luxy Hair. So Alex, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. You did such a great job with the intro. I did not provide you with any of that information, so good on you for the research and putting it all together. I'd love to have a transcript just of that intro for myself that I can use to send to people in the future. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I can definitely send that through to you. So I wanted to, I thought an interesting place to start would be, I just want to get a bit of a sense of your background, because a lot of people listening to this podcast, they know who you are, they sort of follow you on social media, and they see this lifestyle you're living now, where you're living in a great suburb of London and living this cool life, doing all these amazing things, traveling. So I kind of wanted to give the audience a bit of a sense of where you actually came from, though. So could you just give us a bit of your story about what life was like growing up for you?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in Russia, and when you live in London now, people think you're probably one of those oligarchs or Abramoviches if you live in London and if you're from Russia. But the reality for us is a little different. We're one of those poor Russians that escaped, and we're fortunate enough to be able to immigrate to Canada when I was about 9, 10 years old. Kind of just parents never been to Canada, sell their apartment, take all their life saving, and go to a country that they've never been to or speak the language of. So very brave of them, and I'm very grateful for them for doing that. And that is kind of how I grew up. It was mostly in Russia, and I'll say lower middle class Russian family, which is really poor by any Western standards. But nevertheless, I think regardless of the financial kind of well-being with our family, there was always love, especially for my mother, so which I really appreciate growing up. And yeah, my parents then immigrated to Canada. Immigration's tough on any relationship or any person, so they divorced about a year later. And I grew up with like a single mother working, factory jobs, night jobs, whatever to do to help us survive. So that was kind of like the upbringing, I would say, overall for me and me growing up in fairly challenging circumstances, but at the same time, this is what allowed me to become an entrepreneur because early on, I had to really face with, if I wanted to have some sort of money to go out or go to the movies with my friends, my mom would just be like, hey, and I would ask my mom for money. She'd be like, we don't have any. So if you want to do anything, you just go out and make some. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm 11 years old. How do I make money? And that's something I would have to get scrappy and creative in regards to how to make money. So like 11, I'll be like selling flowers in random parking lots in suburbs of Toronto and things like that, and learning about okay, buying something at wholesale, selling it, pitching, finding your customers, and all that stuff. So it was, some people may look at it like child labor. I look at it like be able to learn. So I'm really grateful for those experiences and for whoever that person was exploiting children at such a young age. So I'm grateful to that guy too.
That's cool. And yeah, it's interesting because in my research I did on you, yeah, you were sort of selling flowers, you were washing cars, you were hustling to try and make money because, as you said, you just had no other choice. If you wanted to buy something, you had to go and find out a way to do that. And I'm curious to know because you showed these entrepreneurial tendencies from a really young age. So how come, despite showing those tendencies, your dream originally was to become an investment banker? So what was the thinking behind that back then?
I think just I was very interested in just business and that whole world. Growing up around that time, it's different growing up now where there's all these examples of like entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. You didn't really have that in the 90s or
Yeah.
2000s. That was not like so the thing that was really you could see was being corporate or being in banking, and that's the place where you make a lot of money. And I think coming from not a lot, you always have this dream of being able to provide for yourself so that you don't have to just struggle. Because I think struggling, you kind of get tired of it because it's so uncertain, paycheck to
Mm.
paycheck, or just, always have to think about, your kind of survival to a certain degree. So you're like, okay, where can I go to make as much money as possible? So I guess I think that's why a lot of people end up in banking. It's not like, hey, it's my life passion. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think I would really, even when I did work at a bank, because I worked at a retail level, and that's the bank that I got fired from. But I thought I was in university full time. I was working at a bank full time. I thought going to business school, and by the time I'll get out of business school, I would already have 4 or 5 years of experience, working in retail, but it's still some sort of banking experience, which maybe helped me in some way. Feel like I have already some sort of experience before graduating,
Mm-hmm.
and I did enjoy that world. So I think even if I didn't get fired and I kept on and I became a banker, I think I would have been really happy. Uh, but uh, at the same time, I think fortunate enough for me is that I did get fired, and I got fired for having a side hustle. And
Yeah.
when you work for corporate, especially for a bank, like they check all your emails, they read all
Yeah.
that stuff, and it was just I breached the contract, so fair is fair that I was doing something else on my job. So it wasn't nothing illegal, but it was just breaching a contract of doing something else. And it's very popular now for people to have side hustles. So anybody who's working for corporate, something for you to guys learn: do not use your corporate email for any of your side hustle things. Um, and with that, I think at the same time, that experience of getting fired really taught me of, when you work for corporate, they don't care about sometimes as you as an individual, meaning it's just more about like policy is policy. And I understand there's just no time for them to waste time with some young kid who has potential, who's meeting all of his targets, is a great employee, is going to university full time, has another side business, and is still doing good at everything. So it's pretty impressive. Like, okay,
Mm.
maybe we're not utilizing your time properly. Maybe we need you to do something else that will require more of your time, right?
Mm.
But instead of thinking like that, they're like, hey, it's not worth our time, just fire him. So
Mm.
that was the lesson to me, where like, okay, I need to be in a position where I'm responsible for myself. And I think
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship is that ultimate thing where you have to take responsibility. You can't really escape it. It's at the end of the day, it's your livelihood, and
Yeah.
it's up to you to make as much or as little as you want.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's an interesting story because I believe you were exporting cars from US to Russia, and that was your side hustle. So that's a good practical takeaway, as you said. If you've got a side hustle, don't use your corporate email because it does get checked. But I was curious, how did that actually make you feel at the time? Because as you said, like you were meeting your targets, you were doing well in this role, you were studying full time, you were had this side business as well. So obviously, things were happening, and you were doing well and had a lot of potential. And then just to be told that you were fired, like basically have your dream crushed of wanting to become an investment banker. Like, how did you take that at the time? Because obviously you can look back on it now and kind of say, well, it was for the best. But at the time, what was that sort of period like for you?
Oh, very dark. I would say getting fired for sure. I think for anybody, and even me as an employer, having had to fire people in my life, and be on the other side, it's never easy.
Mm.
But especially it's not easy for the person getting fired. Um,
Yeah.
so I think having been in that position, I now have empathy for if I do let go of people. However, I still know that no matter what the person says when you're getting fired, you kind of go in this zone of shock,
Mm.
and it's this like response of just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Even though like, and it can happen even if you didn't like your job. I think and I've seen that happen with people who I've let go, or like I know you didn't enjoy your job, but all of a
Mm.
sudden you become like something's being taken away from you, and you're not the one making the decision. You're like, well, you start making all these excuses, and your brain's trying to like justify why, because you don't want to fail at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, it was very hard. It was like my dream was getting crushed, and it was very difficult. And kind of the most important thing to understand, like I said, I think as you said, I think your real question is, at the time, is you're like, how, what the hell is gonna happen to me now? What do I do? Right? So it's
Mm.
really, you really don't. It's not like right away I'm like, oh yeah, cool, I'll just be an entrepreneur. Like I say
Mm.
that a lot of times when I'm doing like podcasts and things like that, but that really didn't develop. I think with some reflection and some time after being a little crushed for maybe a few days, weeks, and then you realize, okay, I'm still in school full time, and I think the great thing about being in a country like Canada, if you do get let go to a certain way, if you may qualify for some sort of employment benefits, meaning
Mhm.
you're not getting your full salary, but you're going to get like a portion of your salary
Mm.
while you're looking for your next job.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, cool, like that's pretty good. I get to have something.
Yeah.
So why not take this time to really think this through to what am I going to do next? And
Mhm.
that's when I'm like, okay, I'll just try to do different entrepreneurial things. And then kind of
Yeah.
even when the employment benefits ran out, there's another program which is very interesting as well in Canada. It's only given to people who have been on employment benefits. Um, so it's not available to like if you're just a regular person, but if you've been
Mm.
unemployed and you've been on employment benefits,
Mhm.
you qualify for this program, which gives you um, ability to apply for this business loan to like
Mm.
create a business plan and pitch your business idea. And if they approve it, you get a loan for like $20,000 for the next year to try to do this business. And my
Mm.
business plan at the time was um, social media consulting and like web services
Mhm.
agency.
Mhm.
And that's what I kind of pitched, and I did what I tried to do before we started our first business, which was Luxy Hair. But
Yeah.
same, that business was a failure to a degree because I wasn't able to get clients really successfully or anything like that. But it all now again, like looking at backwards, you're like, oh, that time was not wasted. I was learning, and then it allowed me to gain skills that would be useful for when we did start, or eventually our business, which was the Luxy Hair business that you talked about in the intro.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to get into Luxy Hair. But I was curious though, at that stage when you were trying these different things and you tried to do this agency, I believe that's when you first actually read the book The 4 Hour Workweek, and that sounds like that had a big impact on the way you thought or sort of changed your mindset. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that was massive. That was like a huge mindset shift. And most importantly, I actually just today, like, there's one sponsor I work with, and it's Audible for audiobooks.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
actually today, I was just actually recommending that book, and I was just talking about, the instead of just recommending you like the current stuff I'm reading, what's the book that has impacted me the most? And I'll say it's the 4-Hour Work Week. And it's not like when you read that book even now, it may seem outdated. Like don't go looking for it's not about the strategies in the book. You know, it's more about really that mindset of getting people out. How most people, like, okay, even for me before, you work corporate, you climb up the corporate ladder, you become, you know, VP of something, and you're making 6 figures and you live a good life, you know, and then you retire someday. Or you're an entrepreneur and you're just like hustling nonstop, and then you sell your business at one point and you retire then. You know, this whole idea. But so the whole idea of the 4-Hour Work Week is more about like lifestyle design. So how do you, instead of thinking about, you know, designing your life how most people do it, which is living for some time in the future where you might die before you get there, why not integrate things into your life that you want to be already experiencing and doing now? You know, so this idea that you have like mini retirements, or being able to set up a business that, you know, doesn't have to make so much money. Hey, if you can have a business that can replace your, you know, $40,000 a year job, well, maybe that's all you need to like enjoy life and have your freedom and do your hobbies and travel the world and do whatever. Because if you do it frugally, you know, if you like, don't look at me now like renting villas and things like that and flying business class, but you can. But the reality is you'll have just as much fun just having those experiences. Like those like things like staying in a very nice place or flying business class. They're just like bonus, like they're extra bonuses. But the experience when you get there, yeah, it's just icing on the cake. But you still have the cake when you have the experience, and I think that's the biggest portion of it. And like I remember even Mimi and I talked about this today. Like when we used to travel when we're broke versus, you know, I went to Amalfi Coast when I was broke, and I go to Amalfi Coast now when I have money, and I still have just as much fun back then as I do now. The only difference is now I go to fancy restaurants, but I still go to the same beach. I still swim in the same sea. You know, I still see the same sights. So the majority of it is the same. And same thing whether we now go on South with friends or whatever. And like I said, having been to those places before or after having money, it's still the same. Like it's just like the overall experience is the same. Like, and I don't value those things of, you know, just as much as just overall having that ability to actually go on vacation when other people can't, or they just have like 2 weeks of holiday a year. You know, I think that's the real luxury. And that's what Tim talks about, is the luxury of time. And if you can create that, that's the ultimate wealth and resource you can have, is time in your life. And that's why 4-Hour Work Week was like really pivotal. And that's why it's been a bestseller for so long, for so many people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely, you definitely want to read it just for the mindset shifts rather than the specific tactics, and that idea of having time, because time is the one thing you can't make more of. You can always make more money, but you can't get time back. So designing your life how you want it, and then prioritizing work to allow you to live that life that you want rather than living to work, essentially. So I love that. And so going back to when Luxy Hair first started, so you kind of had this idea in your head, like you tried with the agency to get that up and running. It didn't quite work, and you were trying a few different things, and you needed some sort of muse so you could have this lifestyle business. And you were engaged to marry your now wife Mimi, and you were starting to plan the wedding. And one day Mimi comes home and complains about not being able to find a certain product. So could you just share that story of what happened there?
Yeah, of course. I think, like I said, having that mindset shift and then saying, okay, what kind of a business can we start? What will be our muse? Which led us to then, you then start to, I think anybody who's like, you know, entrepreneur, which is like the position that I was in as well, meaning I want to have a business, but I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know exactly what that business is like, or even what entrepreneurship is about. You're looking for ideas that might potentially help you get there. And, you know, the idea came out of, like, as you said, just us gonna get married, even though we're broke. and which was a great idea, I guess, because it led us to our business, which was hair extensions. You know, Mimi was looking for hair extensions for the wedding day. I had no clue what hair extensions are, and this is a great lesson as well for like any guys. Like, you know, don't discount what your girl is struggling with, or vice versa, what your man is struggling with, because there may be a business idea. So instead of being like, this is so silly that you're frustrated over a hair, you know, and just like ignore it. I was like, tell me more. Like, why are you so upset? You know, like, what is this hair extension? What is that? What is that product? And she'd tell me more. I really discovered, hey, there's an opportunity here. There's nobody really, you know, because as I started talking to the customer, which was my wife, I was like, so why are you frustrated? Why can't you get the product? What's the product that you want? Does it exist in the market? Why not? If a product exists, where does it exist? So like it's kind of just being really curious, and then just finding out that there's a massive opportunity and no one's really serving this need and product in the US market. And us, of course, not knowing about business or margins, we just really, I guess, just did a direct to consumer model without, you know, direct to consumer is really hot now. But at the time when we were doing it, we weren't really thinking of our business like that way. We're just thinking like, okay, we don't really need so much margin because it's just two of us. And we didn't understand that as the business grows, you have more costs, more employees, more things like that to operate. But we just had, you know, very low margins to operate on, and we just went in business, and we were able to provide a really great product at a really great price that resonated with people, and just took off. And of course, add on the content marketing piece, it kind of just fed itself. So to this day, I'm like, wow, that was great. Like, well executed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what do you think? So you mentioned Mimi was the customer, and that obviously helped. And I'm curious what you think is how important is it that in business to be scratching your own itch? So in this case, it was Mimi couldn't find these hair extensions, and she knew exactly what she was looking for and saw that it wasn't there. So it was easy to kind of define who the customer was because she was the customer, and then that would obviously help with your marketing. So how important do you think it is to be scratching your own itch in business?
Well, like you're saying, like it wasn't really my itch. It wasn't really my problem. So, and here yet I was able to kind of benefit from helping somebody else solve their problem. And I think that's what really entrepreneurship is really about, is if you can help create solutions to problems and create value. That's ultimately what entrepreneurship is, and that's what creating businesses is. And that can be in you know, in so many different ways, in services, and just even helping other businesses, and just whatever. You're just really creating solutions to people's problems, and people are going to pay you for you to solve their problems. And in regards to, like, you know, we had created, of course, Intelligent Change After, which was more scratching my own itch of what I wanted to exist in regards to the products, even the productivity planner or the 5-minute journal. Like, those are products I created for myself. And when I was creating that, I wasn't really thinking about, I was just going to be happy if I just create those products. Like, even if I remember even back in the day speaking to my partner, and I was like, hey, for me, as long as like I make this product and it's a product I want to create, I'm happy. But I had that luxury because I had another business, right? So, but what I'm saying is that business is a great business that is growing to this day, and it is because I also serve, like with the previous first business, it wasn't really my problem. It wasn't really my itch to scratch. With the second one, it really was. And now more and more, I want to do that. I think ultimately the advice that I can give anybody listening is you can make money scratching somebody else's itch, but you actually want to scratch your own because you want to be interested in the business long term. And from personal experience, if you're just doing things for money, even if you do get there once you have money, if you're not interested in the business itself, you're not going to last long term. So even with Luxy Hair, like we just sold the business, but we sold the business early. And the reason we sold the business, because also, like, realistically, like, in all honesty, it's just not something that we're really deeply passionate about. And I truly believe that business is going to be a, $100+ million business. It's going to be a tremendous business, but like Mimi and I just weren't really passionate about it, you know.
Yeah.
Versus, with intelligent change, like I'm 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 more into that business because I'm genuinely interested in what we're about in these products, and want to create products just because I want them to exist. And that allows you to go more long term and to keep going and to keep improving and to keep developing. So that would be like my advice when you're figuring things out. Like, I would, if, of course, at the beginning when you want to make money, you want to make money, but I'll skip that step, and I would rather start a business that I'm more passionate about or interested in, because many times, especially once businesses are successful, like you're not going to exit. And a lot of people then, even entrepreneurs, they also become miserable, and they also dread what they're doing and what kind of products they're creating. And I've seen that personally with some of my friends. And then I've seen some friends even kill their businesses because they simply didn't vibe with it anymore, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. It's almost like they just create a job for themselves rather than a business that is something they love and that they want to get up in the morning to do. So I totally get it. And so there was something else I was curious about, because I actually interviewed your friend Dan Dembski, who's the founder of Unbound Merino. And one of the things that he said is one of the biggest factors in business that no one talks about is timing. So for him, merino was a material. So basically, athletes and outdoors kind of people, they all knew about it and loved it, but there wasn't really anything targeted with that material to just your casual kind of consumer. So nowadays it's sort of becoming more common, but he kind of got in early on that and sort of caught that trend. So I'm just curious, like, have you ever thought about this, like, in terms of Luxy Hair for you guys? Was timing a role in, did it play a role, do you think, in Luxy taking off? Like, things I can think of are perhaps been early with, like, YouTube and content marketing, and as you said before, like, direct to consumer is very hot today, but back then it wasn't as common. So I'm just curious if you've got any thoughts around that. Like, how much of a role do you think timing plays, either for yourself specifically or just in general for business?
I think it's an incredible point, by Dan, but just about anybody in business. And timing is also that piece of luck that a lot of people talk about, right? Oh, did you get lucky? And I think for us, timing is definitely a big factor in regards to, being early on social media, being early when algorithms are still in your favor as a creator, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. A lot of things are different now. So things that helped us back in the day, there's like some things are still fundamental, meaning I still believe content marketing is like, it's an evergreen strategy, meaning, and to this day, we still put out content. Luxy Hair would still continue putting out content on YouTube or on their blogs. It's simply because that's a great thing to do, because you're seeding content online that's going to reap benefits for you in the future. It's going to grow. People are going to look for it as long as you're delivering value to them. And that's like inbound marketing is always a good idea. However, with, of course, as with Luxy Hair, with the YouTube, of course because there isn't as much maybe, but at the same time, like when we were starting our YouTube channel, even in 2010, at that time, it already seemed like you're coming in late. Because there was already like Michelle Phan on there with more than 1 million, people getting some millions of views. Like, you're like, oh my God, I'm starting from nothing, so you always feel like you're behind. And now you see even so many other creators that even started, 3, 4, 2 years ago, and they're kicking ass. And ultimately, it really comes to what value are you bringing? and are you resonating with what the current market is asking for? You know, so um, so it's a two-factor thing, and of course, timing is massive. But at the same time, with timing, you never know when you missed your boat,
Yeah.
right? Like you'll only know, like even this era that we're living in, I deeply believe it's been more than a decade, I think. Well, and we're living in the greatest transformation of capitalism and commerce ever. What I mean by that is like you're seeing this whole shift of like these, you know, they used to be. It's the same thing. The way you have to look at it is, let's say, content. You know, everybody back in the day used to watch I Love Lucy, right? And because that's the only thing to watch, so you'd have 60 million people watching I Love Lucy at the time, right? Like now you never have any show as good as it is to get 60
Yeah.
million viewers, right?
Yeah.
And so why I'm sharing this is it's the same thing that's happening with businesses. You know, before everybody would just buy, you know, Procter and Gamble products or these kind of big consumer packaged goods brands. But
Yeah.
now more and more people are like, hey, I don't really want to be mass. I really like Unbound for my
Yeah.
shirts
Yeah.
versus Hanes or whatever, right? Because I
Yeah.
vibe with these with their ethos and their story more. And
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is we're living this transformation. I think there's so much opportunity now for creators and brands to be able to create um, more authentic experiences for people. And that's why if you're serving, ultimately, if you're asking those questions and you're able to create an experience, you're like, you know what? Like I might like even when we were creating Luxy Hair, we were always uh, developing our business as a way of like, what kind of a business do we want to um, do business with, right? How would the customer service be like? What would the packaging be like? What would the website be like? What would the communication be like? So we're always looking and trying to uh, kind of uh, uh, create what we ourselves want to see in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like timing is a factor, and it can certainly be a big factor. But then, as you said, there are tried and true things that never change in terms of business success. So, yeah, as you said, the timing is something that you can't control. So sometimes it's better to just focus on the fundamentals, and then sometimes you get lucky, I guess. But yeah, so one point I wanted to touch on as well that I thought was really important is that, so in your first year, you actually hit $1 million in sales, which is amazing. And so the business is taking off, and you were very profitable as well. So you didn't have any investors, you didn't have any like massive expenses or anything. As you said, it was just you and Mimi and Layla to begin with. And so you're sort of starting to live your dream, what you thought was your dream life. You buy a white convertible BMW, you're traveling the world, and life is good. But then you and Mimi both started to get depressed. So I was wondering if you could maybe just talk about that experience and why that happened.
Yeah, I think it's a very important thing to talk about, but at the same time, I think anybody listening right now, it may be hard to resonate, right? With when you're like, I remember back in the day thinking, like, why do people who make lots of money, like, why do they keep working? I'm like, that is so stupid. Like, why don't you just go enjoy your life? Or why do you keep going to the office when you know, have whatever amount that you need in the bank account?
Yeah.
And so for us, because we were really after the lifestyle, and once we achieved the lifestyle, and once we achieved the money, and once we achieved what we thought success was, and you get there, and you're like, oh, it's not really, you know, growing up poor, you think money will solve everything, and then you get it and you're like, you know, you okay, I have different problems now, but
Mm.
it hasn't solved, really kind of those things that I thought they would solve.
Mm.
And so much of it really has to do with understanding that what we all as humans need is purpose. You know,
Mm.
like we were in a position where we didn't, we didn't really need to work. Things were like really automated, and we weren't really trying to grow the business. We're just trying to enjoy life. And it was too
Mm.
like, I think in the 4 Hour Work Week too is a great chapter which I missed. I think a lot of people miss because when it's not relevant to you, you're like, oh, whatever. And that is keeping like, how do you
Filling the void.
filling the void, right? Like, so how do you fill the void? And for us, we were in the void, like right in the middle of it. So that's one. At the same time around, like, intelligent change was starting with the 5-minute journal, and um, I think also realizing that this whole idea of the 4 Hour Work Week, as much as I recommend it, at the same time, I also think we were taking it too literally. And I
Mm.
remember even like the friend you mentioned, Daniel Dembski, who you interviewed, I remember he used to make fun of me like for that whole lifestyle. And he was just, always just a lifestyle entrepreneur. But but and then being, okay, what do I really like and enjoy? And for us, like, we generally understood, like, we actually do like entrepreneurship. We actually do enjoy running, starting, creating value for the world, right?
Mm.
And and I think, so many people want change in this world. And I think that one of the best ways you can impact and create change in the world is by creating solutions for people, and that is through commerce and business. And
Mm.
the biggest change makers that can be in the world, for good or bad, are businesses.
Mm.
So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's kind of, you know that's why I'm excited to be able to keep creating, keep doing things, and keep building, and yeah, helping people to be part of that journey, right? So it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, important point to note, I think, because as you said, people ignore that part of it, think they'll deal with it when it comes to there. So something to definitely be mindful of. It's not about just making the money and living the lifestyle. There's got to be that kind of deeper why and reason why you're doing stuff. So it's a good message. So how did it feel to sell the business? So you exited late last year. You mentioned the reasons previously. You said that at the end of the day, it wasn't what you were passionate about, and like hair extension and hair products. You've obviously got other projects. Intelligent Change is one of them, and a few other things on the go. So how did that feel to sell Luxy Hair? Was it elation, or did you feel a bit sad? Did you feel like you were selling your child, or how did that feel?
Yeah, it was definitely like selling a child. And a lot of people are like, it's not even me. Like, come on, it's not like selling your child. But I think it's more about, you see this being in a certain way, you build it from nothing. And that's
Mm.
why there is that comparison, because you see it come from nothing, you see it grow, and it's incredible once you have an organization that, I never thought I would actually be able to pay myself or other people.
Mm.
um, and to be able to have, even I think at the time of sale, we were like, 17, 18 staff, and have a great office and culture, and, to be able to provide people benefits, and,
Mm.
to go to massages and doctors, and and
Mm.
and have Spotify accounts, and us, and things like that. Um, so it's just great to be able to know that you're providing a livelihood to others, and you're part of something, right? And so selling was, even though like I said, we're not that interested in it, it was still a little bittersweet. And like, I think I really know what that meaning, what that term actually means, going through
Mm.
that experience. Meaning, it is sweet because you're getting a nice payday for the next decade, or
Mm-hmm.
so, depending on your spending. It could be for longer.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it's bitter because you have these relationships that you build and these people that you work with, and you care for them still. And I know one of the hardest things, like, you have, like, a non-solicit with your staff, and that means I can't work with them for the next 5 years.
Mm.
Um, so it's those kind of things, and then it's understanding that you have to start from scratch, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But it's life, and I'm very grateful to everybody, and I'm grateful for the outcome, and it becomes part of it. But I would say, my other entrepreneur friends would tell me this, and that's why I'm saying what I said at the beginning is, like, ultimately you want to build a business that you don't want to sell.
Mm.
Trust me, if you have a business that is great and it's providing you income and you enjoy doing it, there's no point of selling it.
Mm.
You just keep going. Like, it's like, even if at one point you're not going to be running it, like, even as we were, and just more like being on the board, who cares? Like, let it go. Like, it's still bringing you income. Like, there's a
Yeah.
reason why somebody wanted to buy our business, and that is
Yeah.
because it's an asset, and it's a growing asset if you keep investing in it, and it creates income.
Yeah.
You can't, sometimes it's very hard to be able to generate income like that. Now that we have this, okay, let's liquid cash after tax, after everything. Okay, good luck generating as much profit as we were generating with that business.
Mm.
It's it's actually, it was a more of a safer, guaranteed thing with a business, and like, the best investment you can make is create a business. That's why I think,
Yeah.
private equity and things like that are so great, because think, like, as you said in in the show, like, we started with a $20,000 investment. Like, the return on that investment throughout the
Massive.
last 8-9 years is, like, you can't get that anywhere.
Yeah.
Unless you're, like,
Yeah.
investing in Uber and you get lucky. But
Yeah.
in reality, those are opportunities that are very rare.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool to hear your thoughts from someone who's just gone through that recently. So, yeah, it's sort of coming up to the tail end of the interview here, but just a few quick final questions I had for you. Just curious, what's next for you, Alex? You've obviously exited Luxy now, and you've got a bit more headspace and time, I guess, to focus on other projects. So we're already through first quarter of 2019, but what's coming up for you for the rest of this year? Big plans?
I think it's just really doubling down, focusing on the existing businesses that we have, Intelligent Change, and Love Hair. It's another business that we have, and
Mm.
then just try to keep at it, So no long sabbaticals or vacations for me.
Yep, I love it. Keep the head down and keep building.
Yeah.
And is there anything that I haven't asked you, or just anything that you really want to make sure you pass on to the people listening to this? Any words of advice?
Yeah, sure. I think the most important bit is, as I touched on it briefly, is, before going off and running to starting a business, or going working at a startup or whatever, identify, like, what do you actually for yourself, like, not what Alex is saying, or not what you are saying, but what Gary Vee is saying, but, like, what about you as a person? What feels right to you, and what's the direction you want to go to explore for yourself?
Mm.
And I think ultimately, like, if you're like, hey, like, I don't care to be so driven and to create businesses, that I feel totally fine working for somebody, or even being corporate, and I just like that lifestyle and security, and I don't want to stress, right? In
Mm-hmm.
that way, be it. Like, don't feel bad about, like, all this, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurship hype going on right
Mm.
now,
Yes.
and I agree with, like, Gary, we talked about it as well. Like, it's honestly, like, it's easy. Like, I think I say entrepreneurship is, fairly easy. And what I mean by this, why it's easy for me is because like I'm cool with being in uncertainty and ambiguity. Like for me, it's actually hard to be in a place of structure. Like I'll be miserable if I have to work in an accounting firm. Like I'll shoot myself, because like it was,
Yeah.
because it's hard. Because like it's hard for me. But I like to be in a space where it's uncertain, when it's like I really don't know. Like I'm comfortable, and that's what
Yeah.
really entrepreneurship is about. Entrepreneurship is really about being totally cool when everything is not cool. you know so
Yeah.
and if you're comfortable with that, and it doesn't really, like, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are so stressed and they're successful, but like I don't know what you're stressing for, like, yeah, it's like it's not the end of the world, and like, but that's the way I look at it, and it's easy for me to say, that's my outlook, but I think for a lot of people burn themselves out by not really doing things that are authentic to them, and like, as I said, I think I'll still do well in banking or other areas, private equity and things like that, because I'll be fine in those kind of roles, right? Understanding that I'm cool with it. I still like, I'm totally cool going somewhere with a suit and tie. Now I just had too much freedom, so I'm unemployable. But that's what I'm saying. Just explore your own thing. And like I said, there's really no bad route as long as it's authentic to you, and you are like, yeah, like you're honest with yourself to say like, I'm happy. I don't need to like go to Mykonos and party.
I love it. Great advice. Be honest with yourself about what makes you happy, and then follow that. Don't just follow what's hyped up or hot in the moment. It's great advice. So, last question is just, what's the best way for people to connect with you, Alex? A lot of people listening to this already know you and follow you, but if anyone doesn't, what's the best way to interact with you?
Yeah, I think Instagram. You can always find me on Instagram, so you can see my daily stories and things like that on at Alex Ikonn, and I think that's probably the best. And I have a YouTube channel which I haven't updated in a while, but I think later on this year it'll get more love. So that's also as well. You can find me on YouTube at Alex Ikonn. Watch my past content from way back then, even when we're just starting the business. So it's always good to see the journey and where we came from.
That's awesome.
And make sure you go listen to the people listening. Make sure you go and listen to Alex and Mimi's podcast as well, the Ikonns.
Oh yes,
that's because I've been listening to that, and that's great as well. You've shared so much about what you've learned over the years, and interviewed some really interesting people as well. So make sure you go check out that as well. But Alex, that was a great interview. I really appreciate you taking the time out to jump on a call here, and I'm sure a lot of people listening got a lot of value from it. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being prepared. And please send me your intro. It's great.
I'll do that right now. All right, to everyone listening, thanks so much for tuning in today and listening to the show. Go check out Alex's stuff, and have a great day, everyone.
All right, you get some sleep, man.
Yeah, off to bed now.